Let's get into it. At the top of the agenda, Adam Simpson's tenure as West Coast coach is over. He has declined the rather awkward invitation to coach again for the last time on Sunday. This happened against a backdrop where his long-term peers paid tribute to a premiership comrade.
It's been a really challenging time, given the rebuild they're going through and the youth of their team, and he's been front and square with that, and the amount that he's had to go through, I feel for him, being the public face of it.
I thought he handled himself extremely well. Premiership coach, incredible record, and recent years, I'm not sure if there's much credit given to what he's had to do. Even COVID times, what he's had to do with that group and the club, and continue to represent himself really well. He's a class act.
One thing you know when you play the Eagles, you're going to get a really well-organised footy team. And he was able to do that for a really long period of time. They were well-structured, well-organised, really hard to play against, and that's why they've had the success they have. And, he's a very stable person.
Like when a player retires, I think we generally reflect on the great times, not the challenges, and that's what I hope we all do with Adam. He's a great person. I've got a lot of time for him. Been a great coach. He was a great player, so he's given a lot to football.
The salutes across the football world, not everywhere, which we'll get to in a moment. But firstly, the inclination last night, if you read the body language from the press conference, that he wasn't going to be taking the invitation to coach again. Yeah,
everyone sort of had an opinion, but you can only guess what he was going to do, and we guessed right. It's over, it's over. So that was no surprise this morning when
he is going to be there, though, which I think is
which
great.
Is testament to you saying that the fans get a chance to say thank you and goodbye. And people say, oh, that's not really important. It is actually very important, because we'll say it again, he's a premiership coach. And the joy of 2018 that he brought to hundreds of thousands of Eagles supporters, they've got to be eternally thankful for him for being the leader of the club, the football department at that stage. On the weekend when he fronts, a warm round of applause, a standing ovation. I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to walk on the ground? Is he going to stand up in his seat and wave? It's one of those things that I've got interest. I don't know. He's not going to do a cavalcade. No.
Just choreograph a moment for him.
Just stand up.
Everyone gets to say thank you for 11 years of service and the premiership that was delivered.
Big club.
He spoke yesterday about, he'd just been jettisoned from the club, and it's the best club in the league, and articulated why. The plaudits weren't everywhere. The fourth estate in Western Australia is the source of just weirdness, quite frankly, and they didn't distinguish themselves today with a rotten front page, just a rotten front page. If ever there was the don't let the door hit you on the way out, the alternatives to that were many and better, and that's just terrible.
I work in newspapers, Jared, and you worked in newspapers. I've been working in newspapers for 40-odd years. Newspapers, they sometimes step over the mark. They overreach, just searching and looking. That there is nothing short of disgraceful, in my opinion. Now, there's people at the West Australian right now thinking, oh, God, they're all talking about us. This is what we want. Rah, rah, rah. From a journalistic point of view, that is one of the most disgraceful things I've seen in football. He doesn't deserve see you, Simmo. He deserves thank you, Adam. It went pear-shaped. Actually, you've been coaching terribly and the clubs have been going terribly, but thank you so much. That's Fleet Street, England material, which people giggle about. People are giggling at the West Australian today. Giggling in embarrassment and shame, not giggling and saying, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's smart. The editor or the chief sub or whoever come up with that idea, oh, bring it. Let's run with that. So I'll get bashed. We'll get bashed because we're in the media and we're bashing other media. But I don't think there'll be too many newspaper people in Australia outside the West Australian who would sit there and say, geez, I'm proud of that front page.
Yeah, it's a really peculiar environment. I think it's a good lens into what the environment is. And Adam had the gumption to raise that yesterday.
Yes, he did.
He did it only in a very isolated moment. And then this is the illustration of it. But we've seen this progressively over the past 12 months, and some of the stuff we put up, which from this side of the country is utterly bewildering. And if it does have a long-term impact on those wanting to be in Perth, then that town will have to own that. They have created this environment for themselves, and they clearly revel in it. Good luck to them for reveling in it.
They don't care.
But the football reality inside of that is it's just rotten. It's as bad as I've
rotten.
seen.
Yep.
So the better side of it, we started to see a glimpse from his players, and Harley Reid and Tim Kelly, with just a couple of those on Instagram.
Oh, we live in a shit world, because I got on the net today, and was Harley one of the reasons why? The headline was, did Harley push Adam Simpson out? I'm thinking, what is going on over there? Did Harley Reid push Simpson out? And then Harley Reid put up a beautiful post today about Adam Simpson on social media. Did you read it?
I did. So it was lovely, and I suspect speaks to a truth. And I reckon part of the Simpson legacy might be just shepherding him as best he could through the first 9 months, which has been a 9 months that no player has been exposed to previously, I don't think, as being dropped into that environment. Anyway, so we'll pick this up, the coaching landscape, which once there's movement becomes really interesting. And David King's been thinking about the spectre of Tasmania for the long-serving coaches as well. Lee Montagna, David King, welcome.
Hello, boys.
Before we set you to your usual task, we thought we'd just take a moment to assess the coaching landscape with the first piece of movement. How did you see your old premiership teammates' departure yesterday?
It was quick. It was done the right way. Look, West Coast will probably want their time again with the press release. I reckon you've got to thank the guy that's been there for 11 years. Most workplaces do. When you've been there and qualify for the role next year, you generally get a better send-off than that via your first message to your fans. I think that was one they'd want again. Hasn't really snuck up on them, so they should have been ready for that. But apart from that, you're going to have differences of opinion on what he says and what they say. But I thought it was done pretty well. I don't think there's any real... It's far from a death, this. And there's a guy that's had great success as a player, gone to a footy club as a first-time coach, gone bang, taken him to the promised land. No one's unhappy with what was achieved. He's there for, a couple of good opportunities. You can argue what went wrong at the end. How much did COVID hurt them? How much did the injuries hurt them? Did they go too far all in with Tim Kelly? All those things you can debate, and they're all philosophical things. But I think he comes out of it pretty well. I think the club looked pretty good. And away we go again.
How do you assess the Simpson years?
Hard to argue with. I think you said the other night, no blood spill. It was inevitable. The relationships come to an end and you move on. But, no, I mean, he was... You showed the stats you mentioned the other night. He was a wonderful coach. Pre-COVID, he was elite. They had a game style that suited their personnel. It was different to the competition. Won premierships, won finals, and then we know about what happened through COVID and obviously a tough finish at the end. But, no, I thought it was done pretty well.
You confident he'll coach again?
Am I confident he'll coach again? I think he should be absolutely in the mix for if another club's interested. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Would you ring him if you're the club?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's the discussion.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And even if it's not coaching, in a senior football position at a footy club. I mean, just because you finished coaching doesn't mean you're out of the football department. I mean, you're going to talk about Tasmania in a second. What if someone said, oh, there's a role here? Like, he's a 300-game player. You played with him, David. You know his character as a player. We know his character as a coach. I think he's a valuable asset.
His role is coach. He hasn't graduated to the front office brigade.
No, not yet. He's not balmy.
Really got a second tenure.
He's not balmy.
So a couple of things that have probably been overlooked. Replacing John Worsfold in Western Australia, an icon to the game and a guy that's... The only comparison we've got is replacing Kevin Sheedy at Essendon with Matty Knights. And they've replaced that position 5 times since. And this guy's come in and been there for 11 years, 2 grand finals, and multiple opportunities to be there again. You don't get that. So I think that needs to be put on the table. They took a risk on this guy and it worked. He comes out in really good order. He gets a chance to have a spell. I don't know if he wants to come back into footy. I've got no idea. Things are a bit hot at the moment, so give him time to cool the jets, but they'll be ringing.